I'm going to do a short stream congratulating Gukesh winning the World Chess Championship, reinforcing the notion that chess is a very difficult game, and also congratulating Liren, who became one of a few dozen. It seems like about 2 dozen world champions in the history of the championship era of chess. Lasker, Alekine, Fischer, Karpov, I'm just going through this. Kasparov, Carlsen, Anand, Gukesh, Liren. I missed a lot of names in the first half of that, obviously. The nature of championship, or the nature of a champion, is a fleeting one. My last stream, I referred to a Twilight Zone episode titled "The Monsters Are Due on Maple Street" to warn fans, particularly fans of Gukesh, how the very nature of being part of what should be a celebration can be tainted and corrupted by mob mentality and groupthink. When you start to destroy the things that are the most important to you in order to gain something that's very momentary, fleeting, and illusory. I will refer to another Twilight Zone episode for today's brief stream titled "A Game of Pool." A Game of Pool pays homage to the classic and Academy Award winning Paul Newman film, The Player, and it imagines two pool players, one of this era, one of an era past, meeting, coming down from the heavens, the great champion, to defend his title. It asks the question what we are willing to do, not to become the best, but to keep that title. And for entities, not people, but entities like chess.com, they can never win a championship unless, and perhaps this is not outside the realm of possibilities now that I think about it, the United States Supreme Court deems corporations to be constitutionally required to be admitted as persons to sporting events, including chess. I'm pausing for you to laugh in this space. Now I will continue. Ding had what it took to become world champion, and people incorrectly perceived his behavior since then to be that of somebody who had lost part of his mind or sanity in the process of becoming champion. I think that there were personal circumstances that are far more important to him than anything related to chess ever could. That would be my guess. I don't know. But if that's not the case, my second guess would be that the toll of staying world champion and having to constantly fend off up and coming challengers who are hungrier, more competitive, and willing to do far more things both inside and outside the laws of the game is tiring. The end of this game reminded me of something in my personal life, and it reminded me about something about chess and how hard it is. And I think people could take a very good lesson from this. I do not have a title of Grandmaster to attract people to my stream, nor do I have a rating of 3,000, nor do I have a team of people. I do everything myself. If there are music in my videos, I wrote, recorded, and performed every instrument of that track from scratch. If there are thumbnails, I made them. If there's a script, I wrote it. If there's performance, I acted. If there are clips contained, I made them. I made a Karate Kid themed video at one point, and I wrote, recorded, and performed a song that was inspired by the melodies and chords used in the film's motion picture. People cannot find that video because a group of people deemed it their duty to suppress it for their own monetary gain. And perhaps being champion means not allowing other people to have the opportunity to play against you because you're scared of them. I don't know. And if that's the case, it's not something worth playing for unless you are a corrupted individual. But luckily, today, I feel that Gukesh versus Ding was an exemplary game to file under fair outcomes. And fairness is first and foremost. I also wanted to do this recap because, I didn't finish my thing. What I do have, rather than the title of Grandmaster or a rating of 3,000, I do have the world record for the highest level of AI beaten in a blitz chess game. And if there's any possibility that I'm incorrect about that, go ahead and correct me. But up to this point, nobody has corrected me, and I have not been able to find a single other individual on this earth who has beaten Stockfish level 6 in a blitz chess game. Nobody has, as far as I can tell, which makes me the world record holder. So, while people may have felt at the time that I was pursuing that they had somehow tricked me into doing it because I was not playing against them, they were not losing to me, etc. that was something that I did for myself at the time, and you cannot take that away from me unless you can, and then I'll beat you. So I urge you to try it, because most people don't give me a challenge. The last thing I'll say before I review the game is Fabiano Caruana on the C-Squared podcast, which I enjoy quite a bit. I don't like most chess content, but I do like that. Fabiano Caruana said that talent is a nebulous thing when you're in your 30s, because results are the only thing that really matters. They're the only tangible thing that you can show to people to demonstrate what your level of talent is. And I would offer to him this thought experiment. What if Magnus Carlsen had only played against cheaters his entire life in person? I believe that this situation is deemed to be impossible by Fabiano, or it is essentially precluded from the conversation because it seems so outrageous. But in this day and age, I'm not actually sure that it is. So what if you are Magnus Carlsen, or were, and to the age of 30, your rating remained 800 because you had only played against cheaters? In that case, what would talent mean? And I don't have the answer to that question. But I would propose that he might still have some other things to show for it. Perhaps he would have beat Stockfish level 7 in a blitz game. I don't know. But I guess we'll never find out. Chess.com unbanned me from my account, or they changed something about it. I can tell. Thank you, Chess.com. Knight f3 is played. This is the ready opening. It is, I have a video about it. If you go under my videos tab, and if you click on popular, it'll show up as the second or third most popular video, as I still am yet to have had the need to erase it because of thousands of comments from AI calling me delusional and other incredibly awful and horrifying things, up to and including physical threats. Okay, and this is perfect so far. Ding has the white pieces, and the game is lost. I'm just kidding. And now Gukesh did something principled here. Not principled, I'm sorry. Ding did the game was principled up to here. There we go. Now, this move is not a good move, but it is not easy to prove that it's a bad move. It gives white extra time to get the initiative. There are things that I know very poorly because I have not been allowed to play competitive chess. And there are things that I know better than most or every professional chess player because I've played Stockfish 10,000 times. There are things that I understand about tempo and the overwhelming attack that can result from being faced with elite competition when you develop too slowly. And the way for white to do that here would be to trade the knight. Trading the knight and playing c4 is the way to go. Ding plays c4 first, which seems like an incredibly small thing, and perhaps the engine prefers it. I would suggest that at a higher depth, trading the knight and playing c4 is the way to go, because the ultimate goal of that would be to make it impossible or unpleasant or detrimental for black to have to develop the dark squared bishop, because his light squared bishop is already blocked in, and for the time being the dark squared bishop is being blocked. That's why taking the knight, c4, and then if black tries to develop, then you can play b4, c5. So all of this is fine. It just, actually, Gukesh, this might be better than what I just suggested. So never mind. Perhaps Ding has indeed played this perfectly. But now what he has to do is, let's see, the engine says to play queen f4. The reason I'm consulting the engine here is to show how the engine would play on this concept and how stockfish generally works. And the move queen f4 is the reason that it plays this is apparently because it sees black playing e5, and then the queen goes to e3. And so as you'll see in this variation suggested, the bishop comes to e6. Oh, just goes to, wait, what? E6. Oh, e6. Yeah, okay. So wait, why can't the dark squared bishop come here? So this is bad because then it pins the dark squared bishop. And so this is what I do better than even professional chess players, is I understand why the engine is saying these things, because I've played it 10,000 times more than they have. So that's why I am indeed worth listening to, and that's not an advertisement, it's a statement of fact. Ding plays queen d1, and even though white maintains a small advantage, this move, nor really any of Ding's moves, have been intended to prevent the development of the dark squared bishop. And that gives Gukesh the initiative to push for an extra square to put the dark squared bishop. And that was a very Ding-like pawn push. Now e3 is played to undermine the pawn. And now Gukesh gets that bishop out. So he made space to put the bishop, and he put it there, which was meeting the demands of the position. So well done for Gukesh. I predicted at the beginning of the match that Ding would win. I will happily own the fact that I was wrong about that, but I think that everyone could agree not only that all of the predictions were basically worthless because they were based on public perception, which is not terribly perceptive, but also because it is clear that Ding didn't prepare for whatever reason, and everyone, even the people predicting Gukesh would win, certainly made their predictions with the belief that Ding would show up prepared. So this was, in my opinion, the World Championship match wasn't bad per se, Harvin, but it was at least, maybe it's because my knowledge of chess was so much less at the point when Ding played Nepo, but I remember that match being quite a lot better. And I remember the second match between Nepo and Magnus being quite a bit better too. That was a very good match, even though it did have a lot of draws, and those games were unbelievably long. The first match between Nepo and Magnus was not good. Did they only play once? No, they played twice, right? Or did they only play once? Am I conflating the two? Am I thinking games 1 through 5 were a whole different one? We'll never know. Ding versus Nepo was awesome. That's how I remember it. I remember everyone thought it was awesome at the time too. So I don't know. Um, yeah, even Magnus does not have the desire to keep fighting for that world championship. I'm sorry, I missed the last two moves. Okay, so Ding undermines that pawn, but Gukesh gets the bishop out, which is why now the game is basically even instead of white having a small advantage. Taking here is just taking time away from being able to develop further. Ding doesn't, if you're newer to chess, the reason that Ding takes here presumably is because if, well, the knight has no good square to go to, first and foremost. But even if he's to play a move like that, he doesn't want everything to get traded off, and he doesn't want to have this, he doesn't want to compromise his kingside pawn structure. Okay, so now that gets traded, and now it gets to develop very naturally. Gukesh castles. So I feel that Ding, had he been more prepared, this game would look quite a bit different. I just have a few comments to make. It is a difficult situation for me to review games because from the perspective of a professional, they're more likely than not to just refuse to watch me with the belief that nothing I say will be of any value, which is wrong. And to the perspective of someone who's newer to the game, it might be the same thing, but for the reason that they simply don't have a title next to my name to demonstrate that I'm a master of the game, even though, in my experience, quite a few players have indeed bribed their way to a title or bought a title, which has come to my attention more in the last year than it ever has before. And it's made me somewhat disillusioned about the establishment of chess. It doesn't dissuade me from playing chess or from wanting to play competitive chess, but the knowledge that people are basically purchasing titles does make one a bit hesitant to participate in that kind of culture. But if not for any other reason, I hope it would be for others and myself for the reason that you can hopefully either bring some attention to that for people that can change it, or to take some small action that will lead toward changing it yourself. So now Gukesh would like to just get a slightly better position as black and outplay Ding tactically or press him on the clock, which is the reason that he made the very unusual knight maneuver at the beginning of the game. It wasn't because he had prepared some brilliant thing. It doesn't matter what anybody says. It wasn't because he had some tactical thing in mind or some position. It's not. He just wanted to do something that Ding hadn't played a million times before, because they feel that Gukesh wants to win more and is willing to bleed out the clock, play psychological games, and get under Ding's skin. And that was always their tactic in this series. That's why Gukesh continued to play on in drawn positions, and that's why the media entities associated with Gukesh, or who do business with Gukesh, were willing to repeatedly portray him as an insane person and gladly ruin his reputation for the time being. I don't think they will historically. I think that Ding will be known as one of the greatest classical chess players, if not of this era, then of all time. And they can't do anything about that. But if they could, they would, because it would make them money. I was watching the game today. Peter Lecko and Daniel Naroditsky were doing a nice job with the analysis. I have a video where you could call it a parody of Naroditsky. It's very obvious what video it is, because if you look at my videos, it's the one where the thumbnail looks like it would be a Naroditsky speedrun video. And when I make videos in a satirical way, I try to portray people who I like in the way that I see them, in a way that you might draw a caricature of somebody. And so my portrayal of Naroditsky is intended to be endearing, and I feel watching it back, which I have a few times, that it's very accurate. And it's very funny, I think, because at least if you're watching that video, that is exactly how I view Naroditsky. And watching him today, it was like, it's hard to differentiate in my mind between the real Naroditsky and me playing him. That's not a compliment to myself. I'm just saying Naroditsky is really, he's a character. I appreciate him. Now, this was a very essential move, and chess is hard. So, playing Ding moves. I don't want to rehash all these little tactical ideas, but this B3 move is really, although the engine doesn't love it, the reason that Ding wants to play this move is because he sees that he's going to need to develop the dark squared bishop, and that it's very possible that he might need to bring the knight back to this square. And so that's the reason that he made that move, I'm almost positive. And you'll see, once a6 is played, which is the move that he was thinking about, he does that. The bishop does come back there, and he does play this move. So I believe that b3 move was incredibly important, and I believe that was pretty well played by Ding. And now e5. I don't know. I mean, the idea in a Catalan position or with the light squared bishop fianchettoed is always the knight jump, and as long as black's rook stays on its starting square, you have the opportunity to often win the exchange, which means you would be winning the rook in exchange for a bishop. Not that that's always better, depending on the position. The relative value of a piece could be a bit higher or lower, giving white a choice. Now, the reason that the queen moves is to keep the position intact. It's the queen, call it Elmer because it's the glue. Also, this move is important because once the bishop comes to this square, ideas like this sacrifice, which doesn't work now, you always have to be aware of them, because if there were several exchanges, there are a lot of tactical opportunities for this bishop to sacrifice itself, especially when the knight is capable of hopping right into that square. So Gukesh gets nice piece harmony from this position, and Ding didn't really, it seems like a matter of prep that prevented him from taking advantage of what I would deem to be very slow and kind of clunky development by Gukesh in the opening phase. It's hard to capitalize on something seemingly that minor, but at this level, I think you have to. Bishop to e6 is played, completing development and making sure that that rook on a8 is going to be able to move off that square once b5 or b6 is played, and then the knight will not be undefended. We'll just get to that point. Okay, now this is a great move. This is a great move. This is a really good move by Ding. And now I would be a bit worried if I were Gukesh, because this knight is on the perfect square. It has the opportunity of checking, and you're going to see a lot of the engine moves are going to try to overprotect the e7 square as well as the f6 square. So the f6 square where you can check and the e7 square where you can check. One idea, especially after the pawn formation changes a little bit here, is for this knight to hop in here and for the queen to come up and check here. Obviously, you can see in this position that's not possible, but it will be. And I really like Gukesh's move here, b5, and now all of those things that I had just mentioned are possible with Ding's position, but they're actually not possible. I know that's very literally contradictory, but the number of insane sequences here are they're just infinite. You can take the bishop first, and then after the knight takes back, now you can. Is there any check here? Is there ever any check here? There's not. But there is, what there is there's f4, and then after you, if you take there, now you have a tremendous amount of trouble. Well, the queen just takes back, duh. But the point was remaining that this check would be intact at some point, although I believe I can't actually demonstrate that with the actual move sequence in the game because Gukesh played it so well. So unfortunately, there's just not really anything to demonstrate. I could, if I were Naroditsky, I would have a team of people that would be able to pull up a game on my second monitor, but I have one monitor, no team, and so forth. Yeah. All right. That was an unusual reaction. Okay. And now Ding. I think this is not the best move. I think that the way that Ding played this game seemed like he perceived the danger levels to be higher than they really were. I suppose first it takes an engine to be able to calculate every single sequence of captures 10 moves out. And secondly, they're playing for the world championship. And that's a level of competition that I'm not capable of understanding for chess because I haven't been there. So I think that it would be overly critical for me to say this, that, or the other should have been done. I would just say that I wouldn't have played this move because after the pawn takes back, I really don't like this pawn being there. The options with this pawn are extremely unpleasant. One of them, after these captures are made, is that after you chase away this bishop, this pawn can come down there, threatening the checkmate with the queen on h3. If the queen gets to h3 and the pawn is pushed to f3, checkmate will be unstoppable. And then by compromising the kingside pawn structure, you have other tactical opportunities that present themselves. So it's really, that's the reason that I wouldn't have ever made the move that Ding made. But it seemed to me that his reason for doing so was a perceived danger level. So whatever he was calculating, I'm not sure that I saw it, but that could just be because he's better than me. Seems reasonable. At this point in the game, I would have brought the bishop all the way back because I'm terrified of that pawn, or I would have played this move. Actually, I absolutely would have played this move so that the pawn couldn't have gotten pushed. This is definitely the move I would have played. Oh, that is what Ding played. Okay, I didn't see that during the game. Okay, so Ding is, I like that quite a lot. Now you want to take back with the h-pawn. It does. All right. The reason you want to take back with the h-pawn is because it's not legal to take back with the other pawn. It's pinned. So good job, Ding, following the rules to a T, or rather to a sort of diagonal line, but a very short one. And now b4 is played. b4 is the top move. I don't. Oh, no, I don't understand. Nope, I don't understand b4 at all. Nope, not at all. It's to probably, why is b4 being played? Okay, what happens if I play, oh wait, it's Gukesh's turn. What happens if I play this? I'm trying to figure out why b4 is played. It seems we're, oh, it's, nope, I got nothing. I have absolutely nothing. All right, so then d2 is played. So let's go a bit out. And now queen to c5. Queen to c5. Oh, okay. I believe it's so that the queen has, wait, let me go back to the game. Okay, so I believe b4 is played. To bring the bishop around, to give the bishop the ability to swing back or around, maybe? I don't know. It's probably something much more simple than that I'm just not thinking of because I wasn't prepared to do this. Seems reasonable. It's also maybe to prevent white from pushing his own b pawn, although if I were Ding, that wouldn't be my primary. Yeah, I'm not sure about this move. I don't know why he played a4. Why did he play a4? I don't know why he played a4. It's very forcing and is it's signaling that he's afraid of the b4 pawn promoting, I guess. I don't really see any reason to be particularly afraid of that. I would play, if I were Ding, I would play this move to eye this move. That would be my goal. And the engine's top move here is rook to d4. Rook to d4. Yeah, I mean, rook to d4 is... rook to d4 is... It's the only problem here is that ideally you would want the rook on this square. The bishop can take it, but let's imagine that the bishop can't take it, then you get checkmate. Those are the kind of things I wish you'd see more in the recaps because it is it's even at the end portion of this game, which I'll basically go to now. A beginner chess player would lose 100 out of 100 games to because there's so many rules that govern the chessboard and the game of chess that that moves are made with those things in mind by second nature for these players. So the pieces are going to dance around, and I'm sure a million people will give their opinions of what shouldn't and shouldn't have happened here. My opinion is just that in general, from the perspective of position in this match, Ding played this like it was a game 6 and not a game 14. So I think that he played pretty well, or very well. I think that Gukesh played extremely well. And this move is almost exactly like a move that I made. The reason that Ding loses this game is almost the exact same reason that I lost a game against somebody who was much worse than me over the board, much worse player than me, because I have been, in general, not really allowed to play competitive chess, or that is my subjective perspective, for whatever reason, which is irrelevant to the conversation. But I found myself in a position where pretty much every aspect of my game was miles above and beyond my competitors. But because they had gone to chess camp for 7 days, they knew things like, this is a draw, or this isn't, or you want to trade your bishops when you have this pawn formation. They had someone to teach them those things. And without that knowledge, it becomes incredibly hard to compete, let alone win. So apparently, in this position, white just can't trade things off. Now, I would have gone for a repetition if I were Ding. I would have just played a move like this or something like that. And I would have just gone back and forth. I would have just kept the rook on this file. I would have just gone like this. I don't know, something like that. I don't know. I would have kept pressure on this pawn. If I were Ding, I would have gone back and forth with the rook. That's what I would have done. And he trades it off. And I have no criticism for him because I would have made the exact same mistake as someone who hasn't had access to learning those things. And it's interesting in the game of chess, and one of the reasons that I like to play it so much, that somebody like me can beat a higher level of AI than anyone else in the world, and yet not know things that an 8-year-old learns in one day at chess camp. It's very interesting. And for me, it's a reminder for everybody that, number one, chess is not a game that belongs to you. You don't own it. And if you think you do, then you are insane. And if you are preventing other people from playing it, or you're gatekeeping, I heard Fabi use the word gatekeeping on his podcast yesterday, and he's not gatekeeping. Criticizing people or wanting to be a purist for chess can be annoying, and it can be arrogant, and it can make you stuck up and sound old-fashioned, but it doesn't make you a gatekeeper. When you refuse to let people play at your events, you're a gatekeeper. When you know that you're going to lose, so you refuse to play, you're a gatekeeper. And for those people, their victories will always be hollow, and their accomplishments will only be meaningful in a selfish way. And for those who really do genuinely care about chess, in a way that makes you betray your best instincts and the things that make you appealing. I have seen the competitive nature of chess and the desire to keep the title of Grandmaster or International Master, whatever, in the family or with friends who are close to you, or in the case of chess.com, keeping the World Championship title with their allies. I think that those inclinations have led to a lot of men becoming grotesque and very ugly. And to the World Championship match and Gukesh, I think this was a very well played game. And the reasons that this game was lost by Ding are somewhat elusive to me. Subscribe and like.